It's 7 p.m. Tuesday, October 15th, here in Seoul.
Coming up on News Center tonight. President Moon Jae-in expresses confidence that South Korea will dominate the future car industry, vowing to turn the nation into the world's leader in the field by 2030.
The men's national football teams of South and North Korea face off in a historic World Cup qualifier in Pyeongyang. The match is not being broadcast live, and the Taeguk Warriors will search in vain for any South Korean flags in the stands.
Officials from South Korea and Japan will hold working-level talks in Seoul tomorrow as part of efforts to resolve heightened tensions over history and trade.
And Seoul Fashion Week is well underway in the capital's fashion district of Dongdaemun, with next year's spring-summer collections hitting the runways. NEWSCENTER begins now.
Good evening to our viewers in Asia, and hello to others watching from around the world. Welcome to Arirang News Center. Live from Seoul, I'm Han Daeun.
And I'm Noah Ram. Thank you as always for joining us. Our top story this evening, President Moon Jae-in has expressed confidence that South Korea will succeed in dominating the global future car industry.
Highlighting that Korea already has the groundwork for leading the industry, such as the fastest network speed in the world, he vowed full government support to make it happen by 2030. Our Park Hee-jun starts us off.
President Moon Jae-in says he is confident South Korea will become the world's #1 when it comes to future cars. This was at an event at Hyundai Motor Company's research center in Hwaseong, Gyeonggi-do Province on Tuesday. In front of 150 government officials and companies and startups related to the field, he reaffirmed the government's goal of making Korea the most competent nation in the global future car market by 2030.
우리의 목표는 2030년까지 미래차 경쟁력 1등 국가가 되는 것입니다. 우리는 미래차에서 세계 최초, 세계 최고가 될 것입니다.
President Moon said Korea is already leading the battery, semiconductor, and IT industries, which are central to future cars. Combined with the world's fastest mobile communication network, he said Korea is fully capable of becoming the frontrunner in self-driving cars. But he also cautioned that jobs could be lost. To prevent that, the president promised the government's active support in the transition of the parts and material industries. And he promised to open new markets related to services and software through regulatory innovation so that new jobs can be created. For this, President Moon stressed that related firms and labor unions need to cooperate. Also showcased for the first time on Tuesday were hydrogen trucks designed for exports. Hyundai, the first company in the world to develop these trucks, will be exporting 1,600 of them to Switzerland by 2025, starting early next year. President Moon congratulated Hyundai on the achievement and praised the company for its continued devotion to developing hydrogen cars since 1997 and succeeding in becoming the first company in the world to mass produce them. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
The Moon administration has chosen non-memory chips, bio, and future car as 3 key industries the government is investing in to help boost innovative growth in the country. Our business correspondent Kim Heesang now has more on government plans unveiled today on developing future cars.
The Korean government announced plans on Tuesday to nurture the country's future car industry, including electric cars, hydrogen cars, self-driving cars, and flying cars.
Our goal is to increase the percentage of electric cars and hydrogen cars from 2% of the new car market in 2019 to 33% by 2030, and their global market share to 10% by 2030. We aim to be the first in the world to have level 4 fully autonomous cars on the roads in Korea by 2027.
The auto industry is crucial to the South Korean economy, making up 7% of its GDP and 10% of its total exports. With growth in the global auto industry slowing down and major automakers transitioning to driverless cars, the Korean government aims to boost its competitiveness in future cars and start services of flying cars by 2025. It'll work closely with the private sector, which is investing more than $50 billion over the next 10 years to produce autonomous cars and related technology. Hyundai Motor Group is investing near $35 billion by 2025. For driverless cars, a regulatory framework for issues such as insurance is set to be prepared by 2024.
Korea's advanced ICT infrastructure can help it lead the future car industry, but it's important to utilize the services sector along with the manufacturing sector to provide a smart mobility service. At the same time, so is nurturing talent in driverless cars and training existing auto sector workers.
To help increase domestic demand for future cars until there's economy of scale, the government will provide subsidies so the cars are priced at around $33,000 and encourage public buses, trucks, and taxis to switch to electric and hydrogen. As for infrastructure, the government plans to provide 660 hydrogen fueling stations by 2030 and 15,000 electric vehicle charging stations by 2025. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
South Korea and Japan will hold working-level diplomatic talks in Seoul this week. South Korea's foreign ministry says its Director General for Asian and Pacific Affairs, Kim Jong-han, will meet his Japanese counterpart, Shigeki Takizaki, on Wednesday afternoon to discuss what it calls issues of mutual interest. Their meeting comes a week before South Korean Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun attends Japanese Emperor Naruhito's enthronement ceremony. The two sides will discuss Tokyo's export curbs and Seoul's decision to pull out of a bilateral military intel sharing pact. Kim and Takizaki last met in Tokyo a month ago. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe reportedly won't be visiting the controversial Yasukuni Shrine in Tokyo during its annual autumn festival later this week. Citing sources, Kyodo reports that Abe will instead be sending a ritual offering to the shrine through an official of his party. The Yasukuni Shrine commemorates more than 2.4 million Japanese war dead, but controversially, it also honors 14 Class A war criminals. Visits by Japanese leaders to the shrine have long angered South Korea and China, which suffered from Japan's past aggressions. Abe has not visited the shrine since late 2013. Japan will tap Koji Tomita as its new ambassador to South Korea. According to local media reports on Wednesday, the Japanese cabinet will appoint Tomita as its top envoy in Seoul on October 22nd. Tomita is known to have a deep understanding of Korea as he has several years of diplomatic experience working at the Japanese embassy in Seoul. He has also served as the head of the Japanese Foreign Ministry's North American Affairs Bureau. NHK says the decision could be seen as part of Japan's efforts to find ways to mend the strained Seoul-Tokyo relations. The historic World Cup qualifier between South and North Korea in Pyeongyang kicked off less than 2 hours ago in what's been dubbed as the blind away game for the South, with no live broadcast of the match. The two Korea's football teams are facing off for the first time in 29 years in the North's capital. We have our Kan Young-woo now on the line with the latest. Young-woo, what are you hearing so far?
Sudan, the score right now is 0-0 with about 15 minutes left in the game. But what's strange is that it's a World Cup qualifier with nobody in the stands. According to Seoul's Korea Football Association, the two Koreas are competing in a Kim Il-sung Stadium that's basically empty. The only people there are some officials from both sides and some FIFA personnel, including FIFA president Gianni Infantino. Some are calling it a blind away game, while others have referred to it as the world's strangest football derby. Here's why. For one, there's no live broadcast of the match, as you mentioned. Seoul's Unification Ministry and South Korea's major TV networks had been trying to communicate with the North about airing a live feed, but the talks fell apart with no response or cooperation from Pyongyang. Pyongyang has also not allowed attendance by any South Korean fans, international media, or even foreign tourists. So the way we're getting any updates on the match is through the Korea Football Association's Twitter and the official website of the Asian Football Confederation. So as far as the match is concerned, it appears to be a fierce battle as North Korean defender Lee Young-jik and midfielder Lee Eun-chul and South Korean defenders Kim Young-kwon and Kim Min-jae each received a yellow card. South Korea did make 2 substitutions to try to change things a bit, but it hasn't seemed to be working out so far.
So we can see why some are calling it the world's strangest football derby. But is there a way for football fans to watch the match afterwards?
So for those wanting to watch at least the highlights, this is how you can do it. North Korea has promised to give a DVD of the footage to South Korean officials after the game. That's according to an official at Seoul's Unification Ministry, who also said South Korean fans should be able to watch it once some technical issues have been dealt with. Asked whether the DVD will contain the entire match, the official said that's likely to be the case. But we still don't know when it will be aired. South Korea's three major TV networks, KBS, MBC, and SBS, are still negotiating with North Korea about the cost. That's all from me for now, but we'll have the latest, or hopefully the result of the match on our later newscast. 다음.
Our Kanyungu for us tonight. Thank you. South Korea's National Assembly Speaker Moon Hee-sang has called on Russia to persuade North Korea to take the path of denuclearization. Moon was speaking Monday to the chairperson of the Russian Senate, Valentina Matviyenko, on the sidelines of the International Parliamentarians' Union in Serbia. Moon asked that when she meets with the North Korean parliamentary delegation next week, that she stress that denuclearization will be a win for everybody. The North Korean legislators are going to Russia at Matviyenko's invitation. Moon also urged Russia to play an active role in the denuclearization process, stressing the importance of cooperation between Moscow, Seoul, and Pyeongyang in areas such as railways and gas. Matviyenko vowed to do her part to boost trilateral cooperation as well as to propose inter-Korean parliamentary exchanges. One of the largest aerospace and defense exhibitions in Northeast Asia, the 2019 Seoul ADEX, kicked off this morning, featuring the latest in military technology. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
A grand opening ceremony was held Tuesday for the 2019 Seoul International Airspace and Defense Exhibition, or ADEX, where participants can experience the latest technology in aerospace and other weapons systems. Prime Minister Lee Na-yeon, in his opening speech on Tuesday, praised the rapid development of the defense industry and stressed the need to raise defense capabilities to cope with changing trends and new forms of threat.
The industry started off humble, relying on UN forces and supplies during the Korean War in the early 1950s. Back then, the Air Force had a liaison aircraft and 22 training planes, while the Navy had 29 patrol ships. But by declaring its goal of having a self-reliant defense posture, the industry has grown rapidly since the 1970s.
A range of programs are taking place during this 6-day event. Spectators can get a close view of the 5th-generation stealth fighter jets, the F-35As, as well as a light-armed helicopter, which shows off its mobility at the event for the first time. But the highlight of the opening day was a mock-up of the envisioned indigenous cutting-edge fighter aircraft being developed under Korea's $7.5 billion KFX project. Many have said that its appearance is similar to the F-35A fighter jet. The homegrown jet boasts a maximum speed of around 2,200 kilometers per hour. It's equipped with an active electronically scanned array, or ASA, radar system, which improves coverage and performance. The aircraft can carry up to 7,700 kilograms of weapons, including the country's Taurus long-range air-to-surface cruise missile, also currently in development. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea's rice production for this year is estimated to be around 3.8 million tons. This is the 4th consecutive year that rice production has seen a decrease and is the lowest amount produced in almost 4 decades. According to Statistics Korea, this is a 2.3% decrease from last year. The drop is due to less land being used for rice farming and a lower production per square kilometre due to the recent typhoon Ling. The storm struck Korea during the ripening season for rice grains. Experts predict that demand for rice will be greater than supply, causing prices to increase. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the Puma Democratic Protests, a movement by students in the southern regions of South Korea calling for the abolition of military rule under the Park Chung-hee regime. And for the first time, the protests have been officially declared a National Memorial Day. Our Choi Jung-yoon tells us what happened and what it means historically.
In the autumn of 1979, the streets of Busan, the southern port city, were filled with impassioned cries of dissent. This was the Busan Masan Democratic Protest, named after the two cities where it broke out. It was led by ordinary students who wished to restore democracy and rose up against the so-called Yushin regime. The Yushin regime was a centralized authoritarian system formed in 1972 by Korea's former president Park Chung-hee, who changed the constitution to do away with direct elections. President Park had made it so he could be re-elected an unlimited number of times and gave himself the power to appoint one-third of the parliament. On October 16, 1979, to protest 7 years of dictatorship, roughly 500 college students took to the streets of Busan in the hope of bringing down the regime. Their movement soon spread to the city of Masan, a few dozen kilometers away. How to respond to the unrest sparked conflict among those in power and resulted in President Park's security chief assassinating him several days later on October 26th. The importance of Busan Masan protests to the regime's demise, however, would not be widely recognized for years to come.
The Busan Masan democratic protests almost never came to light. The Yushin regime was destroyed, but the military dictatorship continued under the next ruler, leading to bigger sacrifices in the May 18th Gwangju democratization movement and others. So commemorating the Busan Masan democratic protests as an official national day is acknowledging the fact it contributed to Korea's democratization.
The Busan Masan protests led ultimately to the system of direct elections in 1987. This year's inaugural ceremony will take place at Gyeongnam University, where the Masan protests began. 최정윤, Arirang News.
K-pop fans are in great shock and mourning after the death of K-pop pop star and actress Sulli. Kim Bo-kyung has this report.
South Korean K-pop star and actress Sulli was found dead on Monday at her Seongnam residence. According to the police on Monday, Sulli's manager found her dead in her home at around 3 p.m. after being unable to reach her since their last call the day before. Currently, police are investigating the case as a suspected suicide, but are still exploring other possibilities. At the site, a handwritten memo showing Sulli's feelings has been found. The police are saying it is not a will and that they cannot reveal what it says. Her agency, SM Entertainment, said fans will be allowed to visit Sinchon Severance Hospital to pay their respects until 9 p.m. today and from 12 to 9 p.m. tomorrow. Fans are shocked by the latest death of a K-pop star. It comes less than 2 years after the death of Kim Jong-hyun, a member of boy band SHINee, who are also managed by SM Entertainment. Sulli was a former member of South Korean girl group FX, who made their debut in 2009. She formally left the group in 2015 to focus on acting and her solo career. She released her latest solo album in June this year and also was a host of a Korean television show translated as The Night of Hate Comments. Sulli was quite a controversial figure, and although the reason for her death is yet to come out, a lot of fans are suggesting that she took her own life because she had to suffer so much from hateful online comments. Some celebrities have pointed the finger at people who anonymously cyberbullied Sulli, with one actor calling them faceless, cowardly murderers. Some also emphasized the need for a policy forcing online posters to use their real names. As the entertainment industry grieves for Sulli's death, broadcasting companies have delayed their schedules. One of the largest content groups, CJ E&M, canceled its press conferences for new programs, and K-pop stars in SM and JYP Entertainment also postponed or canceled their scheduled shows. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Apparent failures in the management of the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant in Japan are being blamed for some radioactive waste to go missing as it was struck by the recent Typhoon Hagibis. Our Ji-young has more.
The powerful Typhoon Hagibis hit Japan over the weekend, affecting large parts of the country, including Fukushima Prefecture, the site of the 2011 nuclear disaster. Thousands of bags containing radioactive waste generated during decontamination work at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant were swept away by heavy precipitation last weekend, and many of them are still missing. According to Japan's public broadcaster NHK, officials from the city of Tamura in Fukushima Prefecture said on Sunday that an unknown number of bags filled with contaminated waste were lost. Only 10 of the bags were retrieved and some 2,700 bags remain unaccounted for. City officials say they cannot keep track of the missing bags. There are roughly 95 similar storage facilities in Tamura City.
The lost bags contain radioactive grass, trees, and other material that had been gathered during decontamination work at the site of Fukushima Daiichi power plant.
The bags of radioactive waste were most likely swept into a nearby river, which eventually flows into the Pacific Ocean. Local media claimed that no particular safety measures were in place even though record-breaking precipitation by the typhoon had been projected. There are also reports that alerts were issued 8 times at the Fukushima Daiichi power plant, warning that radioactive water was leaking from the plant. However, the officials said the alerts were due to a malfunction in the system. Ji-young, Arirang News.
The United States has decided to impose economic sanctions on Turkey over its incursion into northern Syria and has blacklisted 3 Turkish ministers. American forces, meanwhile, are leaving northern Syria as per President Donald Trump's orders. Our Kim Jae-hee has more.
As promised, President Trump has authorized economic sanctions against Turkey. In a lengthy tweet on Monday, Trump revealed an executive order that includes the suspension of negotiations on a $100 billion trade deal with Turkey, as well as tariffs of up to 50% on Turkish steel. Trump stated that the order will enable the U.S. to impose powerful additional sanctions on those who may be involved in serious human rights abuses and those who obstruct a ceasefire. The U.S. has also sanctioned 3 Turkish ministers, as well as Turkey's Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources. In addition, all U.S. forces will now evacuate northern Syria. AFP reported on Monday that according to a U.S. official, the troops are executing the order from the Pentagon. The decision, which came just a day after President Trump ordered the withdrawal of up to 1,000 American troops, will leave behind just a small contingent of 150 troops in a southern Syria base. Meanwhile, Syrian forces, following the order of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, entered the northern Kurdish held town of Manbij on Monday, local time. According to Syria's state-run Sana news agency, this came just hours after the Turkish-backed opposition fighters, known as the Free Syrian Army, declared their advance on the city. Manbij currently houses U.S. troops. This also marks the first time in 7 years that Syrian forces have returned to the northeastern region, and clashes between Syrian forces and the Free Syrian Army seemed inevitable. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
A first case of lung illness associated with use of e-cigarette or vaping has been reported here in Korea. Korea's Centers for Disease Control said today a patient had been suffering from coughs and respiratory difficulties after using vaping products. Whether the case is directly linked to the use of e-cigarette is still under investigation. Meanwhile, the U.S. CDC reported more than 1,000 cases of vaping products-related injuries and confirmed 26 deaths in total. In response, South Korean Health Ministry has advised the public not to use electronic cigarettes from last month. The country's biggest fashion event, Seoul Fashion Week for the 2020 spring and summer season, kicked off on Monday. And this year, the annual event sends a message that goes beyond just colors and designs. Our Lee Kyung-eun was there.
If you want to check out what's trending in fashion, Dongdaemun Design Plaza in central Seoul is the place to be. The Seoul Fashion Week for the 2020 spring-summer season kicked off there on Monday. DDP has been hosting Seoul Fashion Week since 2014. It is the perfect venue for the event, given its location in the center of Dongdaemun, Seoul's fashion hub, as well as its award-winning architecture. 32 top Korean designers, including Ji-chuni, Jang Kwang-hyo, and Song Ji-ho, will launch their latest collections. Joining Tuesday's lineup is local brand Lang & Lu, which caused a sensation in eco-friendly fashion market with its signature fake furs. On the sidelines, there is a separate show for hundreds of rising designers to flaunt their creative works, hoping for a game-changing moment in their career.
It is a great opportunity for young designers like me to connect to local and foreign markets as well as with top designers for collaboration.
And to spread its latest looks further afield, the organizer has invited some 500 buyers from home and abroad, the biggest number ever. This includes buyers from 12 key places with the biggest purchasing power, like Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Dubai, as well as from major global e-commerce firms like Net-a-Porter and Matches Fashion.
Very good quality and modern designs, so that's why I think a lot of people want to come.
But to be part of the festival, you don't have to work in the industry. Anyone who loves fashion can come.
Even though we can watch shows, it's like amazing to see all the people wearing different clothes, expressing themselves, so yeah, it's totally worth it.
In the midst of colors and designs, Seoul Fashion Week aims to send a message that goes beyond fashion. It is hosting the two-day Sustainable Fashion Summit Seoul from Wednesday with 24 foreign experts promoting ethical and environmental friendly practices like upcycling and organic garments. This way, Seoul Fashion Week is not just about future trends, but also what other things people should consider when shopping for clothes. Lee Kyung-eun, Arirang News.
Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi will be in the US until next Monday for annual meetings with finance ministers from other G20 countries and representatives of institutions such as the IMF and the World Bank. In Washington, D.C., with the G20 ministers, he'll be discussing policy coordination for the stable growth of the global economy. And in New York on Wednesday, in his meeting with investment banks, asset management firms and economists, he'll let investors know about Korea's economic conditions and present the government's future economic plans. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang is sounding positive about economic cooperation with South Korea. On Monday, he toured Samsung Semiconductor Factory in Xi'an, China, where he emphasized how big the Chinese market is and invited global tech companies to keep investing in the country. The factory in Xi'an is the only place overseas where Samsung makes memory chips, and the company plans to invest $15 billion in the project. Analysts say Li went there to boost cooperation with Korea as China's trade war with America slows down its Made in China 2025 plans. Senior officials from North Korea and China have reaffirmed their countries' relationship and agreed that it's the duty of their militaries to protect those ties. The North State media said the political director of the North military, Kim Soo-gil, met Monday with his Chinese counterpart, Miao Hua, in Pyeongyang. Miao reportedly said their ties are, quote, sealed in blood, and Kim called the duty to defend those ties, quote, sacred. A new study suggests caffeine intake may increase the risk of miscarriage. According to researchers at the U.S. National Institutes of Health, women looking to conceive and in early pregnancy should eliminate caffeine from their diet, as there is a slightly higher risk of miscarriage among those who drink 2 or more caffeinated drinks a day. The researchers are due to present their findings this week at the Congress of the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. The medical community has long been split on whether caffeine is harmful in small doses. Long-standing advice has been to restrict caffeine intake to less than 200 milligrams a day. It's now time to take a look at some of Arirang's digital media content.
And Onion News is back, taking a look at the top trending stories.
Hi everyone, my name is Tami, a news reporter at Arirang TV. Here's your Onion News for the day. Imagine discovering yourself in a porn video that you never participated in. A recent Dutch research shows 96% of deepfake footages are porn. This deepfake is a technique for human image synthesis based on AI, especially a great tool in film and advertising industries. But it can also be abused and taken advantage of in porn industry, and apparently female Korean celebrities are the second most victims after American and British actresses. All because K-pop has grown to become a $5 billion global business. The Science Ministry has been trying to filter illegal content, but stricter regulations and controls are much needed. I mean, we all know Korean undies are pretty, but what's illegal is illegal. No excuses. Raise your hand if you had MySpace. Raise your other hand if you had Cyworld. So, Cyworld is the Korean version of MySpace, one of the most popular social networking sites back in the 2000s. And apparently, Cyworld's financial difficulties and also unstable access to accounts have raised concerns that old users' archive may be completely vanished. But according to the Science Ministry, all the photos, videos, and posts are still nicely saved on the server as long as the access problem gets fixed. Even if the site does decide to shut down, all users must be informed 30 days in advance. So for those of you out there who choose to be sometimes reminiscent about your love confession post or even good old selfies, don't you worry, it's still all there. More and more consumers enjoy direct overseas purchase. Like me, I recently bought teeth whitening strips directly from an American store online. But now, reverse direct overseas purchase is gaining its popularity. Korean online shopping malls are launching platforms overseas targeting both global and Korean consumers. So for instance, the so-called Kpop idol goods like EXO's cheer sticks, they were just sold in a matter of time. In fact, over 9 million reverse overseas direct purchases were made last year, a 36% increase from the year before. Number of Chinese consumers was the largest among all consumers, and Korean makeup and clothing topped the shopping lists. Various shopping platforms, whether home or abroad, options are always good for consumers, right? That's it from This Sunday Today. If you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time. We should layer up this evening as the temperature will drop quickly.
By morning, Seoul will see more than a 10-degree drop. For more details, let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle.
Now, we are seeing some cold mornings, and today's Hwarangsang Mountain even received its first snow of the season, which is about 3 days earlier than last year. Now, although the temperatures recover during the day, the mercury is expected to plunge again, so make sure to dress in layers. Now, ideal fall weather continues for Wednesday with a cool southwesterly breeze coming in to freshen up the air. Now, on the other hand, Beijing will have a cooler afternoon with temperatures remaining in the teens. Now, going over to our readings in detail, Seoul, Daejeon, and also for Daegu will kick off at 8 degrees Celsius in the morning tomorrow, and Chuncheon and Gyeongju are chillier at 6 degrees. However, by the time we hit lunchtime, the mercury will climb up into the 20s, perfect for an afternoon stroll. Now, conditions will turn warmer towards the end of our work week. Now, there will be mainly clear skies apart from over in Jeju and the eastern areas. Now, I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That will wrap up today's Arirang News Center. Thank you as always for watching.
Keep it tuned to Arirang for news in depth coming up in just a few minutes.